Yo, welcome to my AR developer log, and pretty much, I won't even say it's a log, it's more of just me talking about just stuff that I have experienced in the AR space and really filling that void in what is available when it comes to immersive technology and talking from the perspective of an actual creator. And not necessarily somebody that's reading articles and writing about them and not actually in the thick of it, just like coding and developing things for hours on it. And so one of the things I really wanted to talk about are the things that like I noticed, sort of being in this space. Interestingly enough, is really about, for lack of a better word, just like those trends in AR. And so, for those that are unfamiliar, I am an AR developer, a full stack AR developer. So, I sort of go from idea to finished product for AR apps. I work primarily in Unity, and I create a lot of original content and original assets for the experiences that I make. And I work with a variety of different, healthcare organizations, physicians, nonprofits, uh, I work for myself. I make AR books and AR apps and content. I work with other publishing companies, and I work with other creators to create these things out and bring things to life. And I started to notice a lot of interesting things sort of being in this space, particularly when it comes to the idea of like what AR can do and what is typically like industry standards versus stuff that's experimental and is the antithesis of sort of standardization of AR in applications. And I've seen trends, particularly when it comes to the field of medicine or working with healthcare professionals and trying to implement technology into it. I've noticed that, and this is particularly with a lot of the work that I've done and the demos that I've put out, as somebody that's trying to get into the field of medicine as a physician, going to medical school, and then also trying to be a creator in the space as well. What I've learned is that the idea of AR is often one that people at the surface level think is an opportunity to get rich doing things that will replace physical experiences. And what I've learned from sort of that response to the work that I put out is that they see this as a sort of a Bitcoin opportunity or a opportunity to uh, recreate the wheel. And what I often have to tell people is that with AR, the purpose of AR is not to replace the wheel or not to repurpose the wheel, but it's to put better rims on the wheel. It's to make the wheel tear proof or make the wheel break proof. It's a way to essentially make the wheel more resistant and better through constant testing and iteration to where you have a bulletproof wheel with AR rather than having a completely different version of a wheel. It's supposed to enhance things that are automatically there, that are already there, that we already experience physically. We're just allowed to have more equitable and more accessible experiences from those things with AR. With AR, you don't need to have expensive equipment to get the training. With AR, you can get the training through a digital alternative to those expensive equipment things. And so that is always one thing that like is often get that's often lost with the responses is that people try to find ways to replace or find ways to think of AR as sort of the alternative to these experiences. And it's not the alternative to the experience, it's the alternative to the equipment. And if you were able to have alternatives to equipment. So you still have the same equipment. It's just you'll have a digital version or variant of the same equipment. That isn't to replace it, it's just to iterate faster. It's to train faster. It's to prepare better. It's to learn more immersive, you know? Where instead of having to watch a video or read a book, you can essentially take the objects in the video and you can be in the space with the video or be in the space with the objects on the page. And you can walk towards them faster. You can walk around them. You can walk behind them. You can interact with them. You could touch them or use user inputs to manipulate them. You can do all that. And so it's, it's sort of, I go into the conversations with people saying, okay, this is what you can do in AR and stuff like that. And then I also say like, okay, I try to make things more accessible. So I'll try to do this with a mobile phone. And I'll try to do this with this experimental SDK. And I'll try to do that with a low cost alternative to a $2,000-$3,000 headset. And then it goes so far, but it sort of ties me to this next point, which is the where AR and medicine is sort of going. It's sort of this this rabbit hole of like how to utilize or how to standardize business to business solutions for industries to scale and do new things with, I guess. And this whole notion of, AR as a business to business tool that in order for people to have AR experiences or to train with AR, to do things with AR, they have to be tied to a HoloLens, or they have to be tied to X, Y, and Z that cost you $500, that cost you $1,000, or it costs you $200 worth of hardware to experience. It's, like those things are great if, a corporation is paying for it, but it doesn't have to be the only thing. Like, it doesn't have to be a multi-million-dollar investment for people to have these experiences. And I always think about essentially the state of video games, really, where there's a lot of people creating video games that other people made in their bedroom. And there's a lot of developers that have a lot of experiences and of building these modules for training and stuff. And because of COVID, like they're not able to do that stuff or however you swing it. But like, in the AR space with Unity and with, Spark AR and stuff like that, you could gamify experiences and create these things that people can learn off of in a very intimate and immersive way. And it's not going to cost you a lot to iterate and put this out. And because thanks to Apple and thanks to Google and thanks to Samsung, people already have some of the hardware to support all this stuff. You have an iPhone with LiDAR in your phone camera, or you have a Samsung Note or S21 Ultra that costs you $1,200. You have the hardware that can help you utilize these applications. And then it's just a matter of angling the software and the hardware that you already have. And then with that foundation, you're able to build on it, and developers can create these things with experimental SDKs like Manamotion or whatever, and tools like Unity, and they could iterate and create these experiences for people and bridge the gaps and not having these experiences or not having the money from a HoloLens. With a cardboard headset and experimental free version of an SDK in Unity, I was able to replicate a version of what people only thought would be available with a HoloLens. And so with the demo and some cardboard, Like, I was able to create that with the phone that I had. And so I would really like to see some trends like going towards that, where it's not relying on business to business solutions, but it's, consumer friendly solutions that are scalable, that are sort of tightened a little bit more, because I build a lot of experimental stuff, and I could teach others how to build experimental stuff. When it comes to going to market, I mean, yeah, I definitely fall short in that area. And I'm not going to lie. Like, you look under the hood of any of my apps and you're like, who the heck put this mess together? And it's like, I put it all together. Literally from start to finish, I put it all together, you know? And I'm proud of that because it's like I can get something from paper to essentially like your phone decently. It won't blow up your phone, right? But with nurturing with the community to sort of help improve on this workflow or this pipeline, I think that the opportunity to do consumer applications that have impacts very much like a lot of the business to business solutions that we're seeing, we could see these things come about more frequently, and more importantly, we could see these things improved on from a community, through GitHub or any of these things like message boards, Reddit. Like, the feedback can really improve these solutions to where, we have independent developers across the world that are making AR, VR, and MR applications that allow us to have these experiences at home because of COVID, we're not able to go outside and do those ourselves. And then they put it on the App Store, and they you pay $2 or you have it for free or you have a book or whatever. Like it's just life changing, right? And then maybe you know like physicians are able to utilize this and build their own applications so that they're able to interact with their patients in a impactful way, where instead of having to show a picture or a video of what's happening with their patient, or at least a workflow for surgeries or anything, what's actually going to happen, they can build out an AR application or work with developers to create things that the users can download and play on their table or play in their living room, and then they could walk around it and they could investigate those things through their phone. And like those things are literally around the corner. Like, we could do those things right now. And really what's bottlenecking us is really the solutions or the pipeline for these solutions, where literally with Unity assets, you can create all these experiences in all these worlds, and you can bring these to life that are optimized for mobile devices. And because of that, you're able to iterate and not have to worry about the modeling and all the nitty gritty stuff. You just focus on the idea. But this is we're just not there yet, and so eventually we will be. When we're saying sort of 2024 pipeline of like mass adoption with AR, we're just not there yet. But I really think that, interestingly enough, like I think that we will start to get there because of like Apple and Samsung and all those people, where they're making it easier for us as developers to create and iterate and publish and share. And when we're able to do that, then we're able to improve with the feedback that we get. And so that's one thing that I'm really just looking forward to as I progress down this. Hopefully I'll still be in the space. I don't know. I've only been in here for a year. So interested to see where this goes in terms of like my career and stuff. And more importantly, like, yes, I'm like working on a headset and trying to figure that whole thing out. but I'm also trying to figure out just the applications and what's being overlooked, because I feel like when we're talking about AR and immersive technology or VR or whatever, and I could understand VR, but like mainly AR, it's so heavily reliant on 3D stuff. So heavily reliant on 3D animation, 3D models, things that just take up a lot of space on your hard drive or in your package, in your export. And so space is always like a big thing that I've been interested in, kind of worried about, not really. I would say as somebody that hasn't been like a 3D artist for a while, I was sort of thrown off that like I thought I needed to learn Blender and I thought I needed to do all these different things, Cinema 4D, 3D animation. I learned that like I really didn't need to, and more importantly, I only needed to just create ideas and bring them to life. I would say Unity needs some work in sort of alpha layers with 2D stuff, but utilizing 2D assets, 2D animation, videos, GIFs, motion graphics, and AR are just completely underutilized. Like, underutilized to the point where, with most of my work, I've actually, because of file size limitations and sort of like my experience, I've actually gone away from 3D more and gone towards 2D even more. To where the next slate of books that I have lined up to be released, they're 2D animated books, essentially, where you're overlaying 2D animation onto the book and creating a hands free experience to watch the book and listen to the book, as well as read the book. Like, that stuff is so underutilized. Like, so underutilized. And I feel like there's an opportunity to improve on that and improve the experiences with it. Like, aside from, now that I paid the $600 and got the Vuforia license, right? And so now it's like, how do I improve on that? How do I improve so that those that have the budget to do the very thing that I'm doing can create things without having to be all code heavy? As a creator, I truly think that AR has the opportunity to take any animator that does any sort of storyboarding or any comic book illustrator that knows any sort of After Effects or animation workflow or creates stuff that moves. Like, AR is where it's at. Like, AR is honestly like, that will take you from being just an artist to being in the tech space as a creator. And more importantly, I think that, for black creators that are trying to find their way to animation, or black creators that are trying to get into tech, I think one of the things that is overlooked in many ways, and this isn't particularly for just black creators, but because I'm sort of focused on black creators, I'm just going to say it. Learning Unity very much like I did, and then applying literally the same workflow that you had, but instead of trying to put it on YouTube and instead of trying to put it in print, or trying to put it on Instagram, you put it through an AR pipeline. And so now, not only can you do all the other things that I just mentioned, but you can also go to the App Store and people can download it. And so now, not only are you looking for likes and shares, but you're also looking at app downloads. And with the app downloads, that opens up a new world of push notifications, reviews, stars. And so people can buy your books, and you use AR for image tracking, and the books literally come to life. And say you have a homie that does some beats and stuff, and so they could do all the beats for it. And so now you have a collaboration where your buddy can say, okay, I have this app that I worked with, and we got X amount of downloads, and we got X amount of reviews, and we got the feedback from that of how much people loved it. And now you have a new metric of success that you're able to measure that goes beyond what other people are doing. And it's like, you don't need to know how to code, really. You don't really need to know how to 3D model. You don't need to know new things. You just need to know how to apply them differently. And so I say all this to say, like, we're sort of in a paradigm shift for a whole lot of things. We're in a paradigm shift when it comes to just ways we use tools for traditionally old industries and how we could innovate within those old industries, like the field of medicine. And this is where creativity really shines, right? Where typically they're like, okay, standardize this, do that. But now that we're in COVID, like, all that stuff has gone out the window. They're trying to figure out what the new standards are. And so because they're trying to figure out what the new standards are, that means that, like, it's the wild, wild west. It's whoever comes up with the standard first. And that's across the board with everything, to be honest with you. We're talking about business to business solutions. It's like, business to business solutions suck when people can't go into the business to use those solutions. And so if people were at home and a company spent $500,000 on HoloLenses or X, Y, and Z equipment, and that equipment can't be used, or you can't train to use that equipment because of the quarantine, then that means that you need to find an alternative to get those very same experiences done. And so therefore, having a business to business solution where you're relying on a HoloLens, or you're reliant on, you know, the in gear, whatever sort of hardware you need, having an alternative for being able to access it on your phone and utilizing some of the very hardware, a downsized version of that hardware to get those same experiences, I think there's it's an open market for that. And it's just crazy that, like, the industry just does not respect that. Kid you not, I was having a conversation with a physician that I was working with where I mentioned to him that, like, I'm working with him on some stuff that's, you know, going to help with workflow and integration. And essentially, he was like, okay, maybe we could get this company to, like, you know, we could integrate with this software that the company uses, or that the entity uses. And I instantly told him, like, what we're doing is something that's a mobile friendly solution that can get the job done and have an impact. The problem is that because it is a mobile solution, it's not going to get the credit that it deserves. It's not going to get the light of day in their recognition, essentially. You instantly say, okay, we want to do a scalable mobile solution for customers. And they'll instantly just shut the door on you, because it's like, you can't, in a business to business world, a consumer friendly solution is just not the thing that makes money. Something that you do for a mobile phone is sort of looked down on as kind of a game in many ways, because they say it's not powerful, it's not this, it's not that, it's not this and that, right? And so they'll just sort of close the door in your face in many ways. And so there's an open market for independent developers to sort of put these out, put them to market, and then just sort of share them and have word of mouth go, because the industry doesn't know what they don't know. And that's just what it comes down to. Yeah, there's a whole bunch of people that are part of the industry that are also independent developers, and they would like to do these things, but there's a reason a lot of these solutions aren't out yet, and there's a reason why a lot of the solutions just are not accessible. And it's because there's a disconnect. And I think it's just because of just how the industry has been, and just how things have been in the past. And so I think there's an open market for it. And more importantly, like, for independent creators that aren't in AR, like, the trends are often like, okay, use this platform or this platform to tell a story, but then they don't tell you how to tell a story using the platform. You kind of have to figure it out. Whereas you can continue doing the things that you're doing, but then you can create the experiences with transmedia in AR, where you're, like I said, you're a children's book author and you like to play music. So you can integrate your music into your books, where each page has different sounds in it, and they're triggered by the phone recognizing it through your AR application. You are an animator, but the only thing that you can share at a convention isn't your animation, but it's just the storyboards and the comics and the prints that you create. And so you want to share your animation, but you're not able to because you don't have Wi Fi or a good internet connection to show people the YouTube videos you put out. And so what you can do is through AR, you can build an application that has simple image tracking and a simple user interface. And people could download the app and shine it over your prints and see the very animation that you put on YouTube. But it's not on YouTube, it's within the app. And then more importantly, you could sell the prints that sort of house the animation, and therefore you're selling your actual animation to others. And so as an animator, you don't actually need to get an animation deal, and you don't need a YouTube channel to share your animations with the world. And in fact, you don't even have to make an animated movie or video. You can literally just make money off of animated GIFs and tying those to print versions or storyboards of that. Like, it's all like a simple workflow that is just so overlooked for creators. What if you sold just the album covers that actually played the song on that album? And so instead of it being a disc or a vinyl, you could have an AR album. You could have an AR LP where you could download it from have a download code that is registered with the QR code or whatever. Or you can have an app, and so whenever somebody looks over a poster or a postcard of your album cover, it'll play that song that the album cover corresponds with. If you're a photographer that loves to create videos with your art and your work, you could have a series of prints or a series of photos that trigger animation of those very scenes. I know a lot of photo artists that, can do a lot of great things with After Effects, and then they'll post them on YouTube or they'll post them on Instagram. But what if you were able to integrate that into your actual artwork? So you sell a 5-foot by 7-foot print, or you have that in a gallery, and then somebody takes out their phone, downloads your app, and then shines it up to the thing, and then it comes to life in the experience that you created on another platform using other tools. And so it's like, we're always going to be tied to screens, and because of COVID, that's just become more and more apparent. But those screens don't have to give us mundane views of the world. They can be impactful in giving us augmented views of the world. They can enhance our experience by looking through those lenses or those viewers. And I guess as I'm talking about viewers, the one thing that I do see as sort of a trend that is sort of gimmicky is this idea that we need AR glasses to make things more accessible, I guess. We need AR glasses for AR to be a thing. And I think it's yes and no. Having AR glasses would be great. But the reality is that utilizing the tools and software that we all have is what's going to make our trends go. It's not going to be the AR glasses. It's not going to be the additional thing that people have to buy to have experiences. Unless we're talking about, my regular frames, unless we're talking about some Oakley glasses that will have a camera in the center or whatever and will overlay stuff. Like, I really think that, and is also wireless. I really think that it's, the low cost AR hardware or companion stuff that makes our current mobile AR experiences better. That's where the money is. That's where we're going to see the mass adoption. Because AR is meant to augment our world. It's not meant to be a gimmick. It's meant to enhance the experiences that we have. And so in order to enhance those experiences, we need to actually have the same experiences from the beginning. And then from there, we can go on to other things. But to say that a $300-$400 pair of glasses, or even a $200 pair of glasses is going to make AR more of a thing in American society in particular, that's not what Pokemon Go did. They put a free app out, and the thing that people went crazy about was the fact that they saw Pokemon in their living room. And then they were able to walk down the street with their friends and catch the same Pokemon. It was that experience that, went beyond just pushing buttons. It was the movements and stuff. And so, for me, hey, what do I know? I've only been around for a year in this space. So, but I do see potential and opportunities, and for me to get to this position that I'm at in my career in such a short amount of time, it was seeing those things based on just the intuition that I've had, playing sports and having success there, getting on the map with animated stuff without having any background in it, having a couple of videos go viral. It's like it's something that just sort of I see clearly, and have often tried to figure out like why it's not, why those ideas that I have aren't seen by others in one way or shape or form. And for me, it's really just that hands-free mobile AR experience, and particularly with books, something just about that has always been intriguing to me, and it's always been something that I probably could reflect on a little bit more, just given my experience with books. But yeah, it's just one of those things. Just one of those things that I really wish people would really pay attention to and look into a little bit more. And so, again, I appreciate everyone for listening and tapping in with me. Be sure to like and subscribe, and just do all the fun stuff that y'all like to do to support creators like me. It's funny how I set off on this journey to be an AR influencer and stuff to get more opportunities, and on my way to being an influencer, I'm sort of getting the opportunities that I thought would come after being an influencer. It's very interesting. I think it just sort of speaks to just where we're at and just the opportunities that are available in the AR space, just as a creator. I think it's pretty fun. So for those that continue to follow, definitely tap in with Iltopia Studios, because that just the book sales and everything, I just really appreciate them all, and that's really what's funding all this. I will be releasing some more stuff on my Patreon, so if you're interested in learning cool new things and you don't want to pay Skillshare, then you could pay me and you could learn it from me. I have a lot of amazing things coming down the pipeline that I'm really excited about, and I will be announcing pretty soon. Some really interesting things, right? And yeah, I hope to continue sharing and all that. Oh, I got a mocap suit, so you guys will start seeing some original animation from me finally. in 3D, and Pokemon Twerk Team stuff is coming. More Island Fever stuff is coming. Just more stuff. I'm excited to share with you guys. So again, like, subscribe, share. Let me know how you feel about this stuff. Put in the comments, because I feel like nobody really comments on my stuff as much as other influencers and engagers. And so I'd love to continue the conversations with you. Maybe branch off into other videos of me talking about stuff or posting on the podcast. And yeah, tap in with all the work. Stuck on an island, Utopia. It's these are just sort of ideas that have kept me, sane over the past couple of years as a creator, as I was just trying to figure out just what life as an adult is about. And so I'm glad to be able to share with you and continue these conversations and hopefully inspire you all to create and conquer. So with that, I appreciate it. Be safe, and I will chat with you all next time. Deuces. Adios.